Hey guys, if you like the content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn notifications on with the bell. Thank you. What's up guys, Partywaffles here. For those of you that don't know me, I'm a 3000 rated multi-glide deathknight for Frost and Unholy, and today I'm going to bring you guys a 9.1 Unholy DK guide. So over the course of this week, I've been testing out different specs, and I'm going to come to you guys with what's worked for me and what I think that has been the best performing overall. So let's get right into this. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is going to be talents, okay? So let's get right into this. I'm going to try to go over this information as quickly and understandably as I can for you guys and explain everything that I can while not wasting any of your time. So let's get this started. The way we're going to do this is we're going to just review all the talents, and then I'm going to tell you what I play, okay? There's a couple different builds. I'll briefly discuss them, but I'm not going to go too in depth about the ones that we're not going to play because I've tested them and I don't think they're worth using as much. So the first row here we have Infected Claws, all will serve Clawing Shadow. So the thing about this row is that you can play any talent on this row, okay? I preferably like Clawing Shadows, but Infected Claw is good too, because so with Infected Claw, like you can put your pet on somebody else and start building up your wounds, and then you can just instantly burst the wounds on a swap or something like that. All will serve is just extra damage. I probably wouldn't really play this one. You can though if you want to. And then Clawing Shadows is just a ranged Scourge Strike, which is going to be able to hit through BOP or things like that you couldn't normally hit through with your Scourge Strike, so it's kind of nice in that aspect. But I'd say Clawing Shadows and Infected Claws are probably the best. So any of this row is viable though. The next row we have Bursting Sores, Even Fever, and Unholy Blight. So Bursting Sores is just kind of going to be like a passive damage ability. Even Fever, not really going to play this. Maybe in RBGs if you want to just pad dots, you could play that. Or Unholy Blight is the one that I generally am playing right now. Surround yourself with a dot that stacks up to 4 times, increasing your pet damage the enemies take. So that's a really good talent. I definitely am going to stick with this one most of the time. But like I said, if you want to play passively, you could probably play Bursting Swords there. If you want one less ability. And the next row we have here is Grip of the Dead, Death's Reach, Asphyxiate. You're only going to play Asphyxiate here, okay? There's no other option. You just play the stun. You want it for your setups. You want it for everything. It's just going to be the best talent. The other two, not worth talking about. The next row here, Pestilent Pustules, Harbinger of Doom, or Soul Reaper. Okay, so if you want a more passive Unholy spec with less dots, you can go ahead and play Pestilent Pustules if you want. Or if you're playing Death Coil spec, you could play Harbinger of Doom, although I don't really recommend it. You could do it though, it's just more passive damage. But the king of this talent row, I'm going to say, is Soul Reaper, because Soul Reaper, especially in 2s, is a very good way of landing kills. Like, you got all your damage out, you just throw a Soul Reaper on them, or if they're already low, you throw a Soul Reaper on them, and then what Soul Reaper does is, after 5 seconds, if the target is below 35% health, it's going to explode and deal additional damage. So it does initial damage, and it's going to do damage when it explodes too, if you get them to that 35% range. So it takes a little bit of a setup to get used to it, but once you get it, it's good, especially in deep dampening. If you're keeping them low and you just keep spamming Soul Reapers on them, they're going to be real scared. The next row is going to be the same as Frost. It's a little different actually. It has Spell Eater on this row. So Spell Eater, Wraithwalk, Deathpack. Like, if you guys know me, you know that I don't really like Deathpack that much, and I'll probably hardly ever play it. So for me, it's between Wraithwalk and Spell Eater. If I'm fighting casters, I'm going to play Spell Eater. If I'm fighting anything else, I'm going to play Wraithwalk. And occasionally, maybe in some situations, you can play Deathpack if you feel like you need the heal. But with Deathstrike healing buffed, you can pretty much sustain pretty well, along with some new talents that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So the next row, Pestilence, Unholy Pact, Defile. You're going to be playing Unholy Pact, okay? With the build that we're going to be talking about today on the guide, you're going to be playing Unholy Pact. It's good, passive. When you pop your Dark Transformation, it increases your strength, which is going to be that has synergy with the legendary we're using. It's going to have synergy with everything we're doing, okay? So Unholy Pact is very good. The next row here, you can play either Unholy Assault or Army of the Damned. Gargoyle, not the move, okay? Not the move, but this goes with saying, right? So Army of Damned is a passive. It's gonna just summon a Magus for you when you use your Apocalypse, and it's also gonna reduce the cooldown when you use Death Coils. So more so, kind of This one's more for consistent passive damage. Unholy Assault is more for like a big burst, okay? So if you want to play more passive, you can play Army of the Damned. You want to play more bursty, you can play Unholy Assault. And that's as far as those go. But overall, the spec that I'm playing is this spec right here, okay? I switch out Clawing Shadows and Infected Claw, but this is the spec that I'm playing right here, my main build. It's going to be very strong. It has a really good burst. It seemed pretty good in 2s. I ran it up to 2400 really quickly. It seemed pretty easy. Yeah, overall, I recommend this build right here. Strong build. So the next thing we're going to talk about here is the PvP talents, okay? We got a few new of these. Few new talents here. So I'm going to tell you these. I'll just discuss my baseline talents first, okay? So these are the ones that I run baseline every game, and then I swap out from here. So Necromancer's Bargain reduces the cooldown of your Apocalypse by 45 seconds, but your Apocalypse no longer summons ghouls. Instead, it applies Crypt Fever. So the Crypt Fever isn't that crazy, but the thing is, as the HP pools get larger with the gear, the Crypt Fever is going to get more valuable. But mostly I'm just using this to automatically proc my necrotic wounds. So, because when you burst a festering wound, it's going to turn into a necrotic wound, which absorbs healing. So this is going to put your Apocalypse on a about 30 second-ish cooldown, 30 seconds or so cooldown. So you're going to be able to just keep apocing on them over and over and just popping the wounds. The next thing we have here, also, sorry, one other thing to do with this is, remember the Soul Reaper I told you about, where it takes 35% HP or less to proc the Soul Reaper? So what you're going to do is you're going to put the Soul Reaper on, and then popping the wounds with your Apocalypse here also does damage, right? So say they're pretty close to the 35% threshold you need. Right as it's about to tick, you Apocalypse them, and then boom, it gets them in 35%, procs the Soul Reaper, boom, you can get some big one-shots like that. I've had a couple kills like that this season. The next thing here is Necrotic Wounds. I kind of just explained that a little bit, but so bursting a festering wound converts it into a necrotic wound, absorbing 5% of all healing received for 12 seconds and healing you for the amount absorbed when the effect ends, up to 5% of your maximum health. So the way this works is every time you burst a festering wound, it's going to become a necrotic wound, okay? And you can have up to 6 necrotic wounds, so that's going to be a 30% absorption on the target. But the thing is, when you burst a wound, when you burst a wound into a necrotic wound, it's going to be a 12-second timer, okay? And then you're going to burst another wound, it's going to go to 2 stacks. The timer's not going to reset though, so it's probably going to be at 11 seconds, right? So it's a little bit clunky to keep your wounds up. That's why I like the Apocalypse, because you can just put up four festering wounds on them, and then you can just proc them with the Apocalypse. But yeah, so that's how that works. And then Strangulate is just a silence, right? It's a kind of baseline. You're going to stun people into a silence. It's going to be very strong, very good. Not much to talk about. It's just a silence. You're going to be using this every time, pretty much. For the majority, at least. Alright, now let's look at the other ones. So Life and Death, this was just currently buffed. When targets afflicted by your Brilliant Plague are healed, you are healed for 5% of the amount. In addition, it erupts for 400% damage. So when it's dispelled, that is. So in RBGs maybe this could be crazy. You keep your dot on everybody, you're just going to be getting massive healing constantly. Like, constant passive healing. Other than in Arena, not so useful. Dark Sim, same as always. You steal a spell from the enemy, and then you can use it yourself. Honestly, you're not going to play this though because you have Strangulate. So the next thing we have here is Reanimation. Kind of a troll ability. It does have its niches. You can use, if you're fighting casters, you could use this and spam it at them, but it's kind of a meme. So Necrotic Aura, straightforward, just 8% increased magical damage. As far as these talents go too, YouTube, if you want to swap one out, it's probably going to be the top one right here, okay, when you have to swap. Next thing, Raids Abomination. You could use this into like Rogue Mage or something to get them out. Anything like that. It's not... I haven't been using it too much though, personally. I actually haven't been using it at all, so it's not necessary. The AI on it is a little bit strange too. Sorry, I just realized that my sweater's on inside out. Yeah, don't judge me, chat. Don't judge me. What do we have? Dome of Ancient Shadows. You're going to play this in all the same situations you played it last season. Fire Mage Combustion, Dark Soul, Warlocks, anything like that. Anything where to save your teammates, you're going to play Zone still, okay? Because it's still insane. 80%, it increases the reduction by 80% when you use the talent. The next talent, This might be my favorite new talent, or at least one of them, because this thing is insane. Okay, it's actually insane. It heals. So Spell Warden, it applies the Spell Warden. It applies the rune effect to you. Let me show you what the rune does. So engrave your weapon with a rune that deflects 3% of all spell damage, and taking magic damage has a chance to create a shield that absorbs magic damage equal to 10% of your maximum health. When an enemy damages a shield, their cast is reduced by 10%. So it's going to be applying that at 100%. So that's going to be 20% cast load. It's going to be a 20% shield. Anyways, the bottom line here is this talent is just a passive and it destroys casters, okay? I play this talent with this talent and my death strikes together. I sometimes out heal my healers. So this talent is currently glitched for Frost and it's not proccing, but for Unholy it's working perfectly. So insane talent. Okay, if you need to live magic stuff, you can just throw this on. If you want to be like extra magic tank, maybe you could swap out Strangulate for zone 2 or swap out Necrotic Wound for zone maybe, and you just go full mage tank mode. But there's a lot of tank potential for Unholies versus casters right now. Actually quite insane. Okay, now let's check the next one. Death's Echo, double grip, double death and decay. That's really good. It's pretty good for Unholy. So death and decay, the thing that it does for you as Unholy is it's going to make your Scourge Strike cleave, okay? So if you have necrotic wounds on all the people and then you drop a death and decay on them and you just start cleaving, it's going to be really good. So I can see this being good with like Walking Dead in 3v3s or something, anything where you have like a sweep or something, right? So you can grip, stun them, death and decay, and just start cleaving. Do it again on your next grip and 30 seconds later, or you actually have 2 grips, so you can just do it again immediately almost. So that could potentially be pretty good. Doom Burst. So I tried Doom Burst. I went the full Death Coil spec with Doom Burst, Harbinger of Doom, the Conduit to increase Death Coil. I did not think that it was worth it, okay? So I don't think playing Doom Burst and Harbinger and all that and going Death Coil spec is worth it. I think you should stick with this spec, okay? The spec I'm recommending. Stick with the build that I'm playing. Other than that, that's everything. Okay, so that's the PvP talents right there. So let's take a look at the next thing here. Alright, so the next thing we're going to talk about here is stat priority and legendaries. So the stat priority. This is what I'm going to go ahead and say for you for the stat priority, okay? Mastery, versatility. Well, first we're going to prioritize versatility, then we're going to prioritize mastery, and then haste. Although you could play some other builds. So what mastery does is it increases your pet damage and your shadow damage, okay? So you're Unholy, you have a lot of pets, you have a lot of pet damage, and you have a lot of shadow damage. So Soul Reaper is shadow damage, as well as clawing shadows, etc. So if you're playing the build that I'm recommending here, you're going to be looking for big Soul Reapers to finish them off, that kind of thing, right? So you can't go wrong with Verse Mastery, although it's nice to have a little bit of haste just to speed up your GCDs. So what I'm doing here is I was going for 30% versatility, about 30+% mastery, and then the rest haste. So as long as you have like 30 verse, 30 mast, you could go the rest haste, or you could go full verse mast. It doesn't matter. But verse mast haste, okay? That's my recommendation to you for the stat priority. And let's see. So the legendaries. As far as legendaries go, the best one I'm going to go ahead and say is Leg Plates of Monstrosity. Frenzied Monstrosity, rather. So it's going to increase your Dark Transformation. Dark Transformation also increases the attack speed and damage of you and your Monstrosity by 12%, okay? So that's one amplifier for Dark Transformation. Unholy Pact is another one, right? It's going to, while your Dark Transformation is active, you're going to be increased by 5% strength. So Frenzy Monstrosity is the one that I'm going to recommend, okay? So the best one, the best legendary for you for sure. Although there is some notable other legendaries that you could play, such as Abomination's Frenzy. This legendary seems as though it might be pretty good. We can't try it yet or anything, but this is still on the radar, okay? You could probably play the Abomination legendary. If you're Necrolord, or sorry, if you're what's the other one? Night Fae. If you're Night Fae, you could play Pheromones. But overall, Frenzied Monstrosity gonna be the best one here. The couple other ones you could play Deadliest Coil. You could play Abomination's Frenzy, like I said. I would probably build the AMS legendary just in case you need to be super tanky against a team. I don't find the AMS legendary that crazy because they can just kill it instantly. Then a lot of people can just break through that like nothing nothing at all. So I don't really play it, but you could potentially play it if you really need an extra heal or something. But overall, Frenzy Monstrosity, gonna be the move there. So let's move into the next thing here. Okay, so we're gonna quickly run through the runes, okay? I'm just gonna skip the ones we're not gonna play, and I'm just gonna talk about the ones we are gonna play. So, Rune of Spellwarding, I'm pretty sure it doesn't stack with the talent, so you're not gonna play this. You can just play the talent if you need it. So the two that we're gonna be playing is gonna be Rune of Fallen Crusader or Stone Skin Gargoyle, okay? So Fallen Crusader is gonna be, I'm pretty sure this one's gonna be bigger DPS and it's gonna give you a little bit of healing. But Stone Skin Gargoyle is just gonna be a little bit more tank and just flat stats, okay? Because this is Fallen Crusader is a proc that gives you strength and a heal, and this is just a flat stats. Personally, right now, I'm liking the Rune of Stone Skin Gargoyle, but you can play either and just whichever one you prefer. It's not a big deal. So just try those out, see what you like. I recommend trying the Stone Skin Gargoyle though, for sure. It'll make you a little more tanky. Okay, we're gonna just talk a little bit about rotation and like when your abilities and when to use them and that kind of thing. So I'll just go over the abilities and then we'll talk about burst rotation after. So one thing here, the first thing to know is Outbreak, okay? You have a disease called Brilliant Plague. You want to keep your disease up on everything at all times if you can, okay? So that's number one. Number one is keep your disease up. So like that, boom, disease is up. The next thing is, so Festering Strike applies 2 to 3 Festering Wounds, okay? So that means that you never want, the wounds stack up to 6, okay? You never want to go past 6 wounds. You can't go past 6 wounds. So you don't want to waste wounds, okay? So if it applies 2 to 3, look, I hit it once, it has 2 wounds, okay? That means I can hit it another time. 2 wounds, 4 wounds. So it can apply 2 to 3, right? So if I add 4, it has 4 wounds and I do it again, it could potentially add 3 and go to 7. So we don't want to do that, okay? We want to burst 1 more wound and then we can strike again. Boom, 5 wounds. So just never fester if you have 4 or more wounds, because it could potentially give you 3 wounds and you're just wasting a wound at that point. So if you have 4 or less wounds, or sorry, if you have 3 or less wounds, you can fester, but if you have 4 or more, then you want to burst them before. But like, look here. So 3 wounds, and then we think up to 6, okay? Because 6 is the max wound, so remember that. You can apply 2 to 3 wounds per fester, okay? So don't fester if you have 4 or more wounds, because 4 plus 3 is 7, and we can only go up to 6, right? So we'd be wasting 1. So that's one thing. Don't go past 6 wounds, and keep your dot up, okay? Those are 2 good things to know. Next, you have Runic Power. So with your Runic Power, you want to try not to cap Runic Power too much and waste Runic Power, okay? So with your Runic Power, you're either going to heal yourself with Death Strike if you're not full HP already, or if you're full HP and you don't need to heal, you can Death Coil for damage. So that's the situation where you're going to use those, all right? The next thing here, you have an ability called Epidemic. This is mostly not, what I'm going to tell you right here is mostly only going to apply to PvE, okay? But if you have your dot on 3, if you're fighting 3 or more targets and you have your dot on them, what you're going to do, instead of Death Coiling with your Runic Power, you're going to Epidemic, okay? That's 3 or more targets, you 3 or more targets, you Epidemic instead of Death Coiling, all right? So remember that. That's mostly for PvE though, okay? The next thing we have here is Death and Decay, okay? So if you have wounds on 2 targets and they're both in the Death and Decay, you drop the Death and Decay, and it's going to just, while the Death and Decay is down, your ability is going to cleave everything, okay? So remember that too. If people are stacking up against you in Arena, you drop the Death and Decay and you start cleaving them. So let's talk about your burst rotation, okay? Now that you know the basics. Well, there's one other thing, okay? So like I said, this is how you just do your PvE rotation. You keep your dot up, you dump your Runic Power, you burst your wounds, okay? You have enough wounds to burst. Sorry, if you have enough wounds down, you can pop a Fester, Death Coil, pop a wound. You can Fester again if you want, as long as you don't have 4 or more wounds, all right? Only Fester with 3 or less wounds. If you don't have that, you're popping the wounds. And that's all there is to it. I'm gonna run through this one more time, okay? You keep your dot up, you apply your Fester, you Death Coil when you can't, apply more Festers, Death Coil, you're too high on the wounds, so you're gonna start breaking your wounds, okay? And one thing about the wounds is you're using necrotic wounds. So when you burst your wounds, you're gonna be building up your necrotic wounds. So try and track your necrotic wounds if you can, and you're gonna line up the necrotic wounds with when you do your damage to the best of your ability. It's gonna be hard to track, maybe you need a weak aura for it or something, but try to track it if you can. At least track your festering wounds at first. At least track your festering wounds and make sure you're not Make sure you're not using Festering when you have 4 or more wounds. The necrotic wounds tracking will come with time, with practice. So this is how the burst rotation is going to go, okay? You're going to pop your Dark Transformation first because it's going to be the longest cooldown. Especially with your legendary, it's going to increase the time on it too. So this is going to be your longest one, okay? The next thing you're going to pop is your Unholy Blight because it's the next longest cooldown. So these two are, so this is going to be about an 18 seconds. This is going to be 14 seconds, okay? So what Unholy Blight does, like I said, it's stacking, right? So it stacks up, and then you need to get the full stacks to get the full effects for the pet damage increase. So you're going to be popping that second, and it's going to be building up the stacks. The next thing you're going to pop, if you want to, in the go is going to be A-Bomb Limb, because it's the next longest ability. So it's going to go Dark Transformation, Unholy Blight, A-Bomb Limb. And then if we're assuming you don't have any wounds on the target and you instantly want wounds to proc, you're going to Unholy Assault, and then you're going to Apocalypse. So I'm going to show you this really quickly, all right? So it's going to be Dark Transformation. I'm going to click it for you just to make it really obvious. Dark Transformation, Unholy Blight, Abomination Limb. You're going to put your wounds with Unholy Assault. You're going to proc the wounds with Apocalypse, and it's going to instantly put your necrotic wounds on. And then you're going to do another Festering, and you're going to just keep procking your last 2 wounds for the last 2 stacks of necrotic wounds. Because you're only going to get 4 stacks there, and it goes up to 6, right? So you're going to want to drop a Fester on them and break 2 more. But at any point during your burst, when you have an opportunity, you're going to weave in a Soul Reaper, and you're just going to be trying your best to proc the Soul Reaper, okay? Because you have all your damage out. So with the Soul Reaper, it's going to take 35% or less HP to proc it. So just work on figuring out when to slot Soul Reapers into that combo to get it to proc, okay? It's situational though. But we're going to go over the burst combo one more time, okay? This is the maximum damage burst combo, okay? So it's going to be Dark Transformation, Unholy Blight, Dark Transformation, Unholy Blight, Abomination Limb, Unholy Assault, and Apocalypse. You're not going to have all those up together a lot of the time. So another good way you can split them up is you can do one go with Unholy Assault and Apocalypse, Soul Reaper, or you can do another go. One thing to note is that you want to pair up Dark Transformation and Unholy Blight pretty much every time, okay? Because they're pretty much the same cooldown, 15 seconds off, and they synergize together very well. So a lot of your goes is just going to be a singular Dark Transformation, Unholy Blight go. And you're just going to be doing damage with your pets, dropping Soul Reapers, bursting your wounds, that kind of thing. Just hoping you can proc the Soul Reaper. But yeah, so you know the main combo with every ability. You know the small combo with just Dark Transformation and Unholy Blight. And then there's one other thing I'm going to teach you is about how to use your CC, okay? So I'm not going to tell you which target to use it on. I'm just going to tell you how it works, okay? So this is what you're usually going to be doing. So say you're fighting something and you want to just say your healer's not CCing for you, okay? And you want to do a singular go on the DPS, okay? So you're fighting the DPS. You have this target over here. You're going to stun that target, and then you're killing this target. The other target's stunned, and right as the stun's about to fall off, you're going to strangulate them off of it. So it's going to be a stun into a silence while you're killing the other guy. But usually how it's going to look is you're going to pop your Dark Transformation, you're going to pop your Unholy Blight, and then while those are out, then you're going to stun the other guy. You're going to stun the guy with your Asphyxiate, and you're going to silence off while all your damage is going. You're dropping your Soul Reapers, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But there. So that's a lot of information for you guys to take in there in one little time, but if you just maybe play back a couple times, listen to me say that, practice it out, and you should be good. But it's more complicated than it sounds. It's really not that complicated at the end of the day. You're just trying to proc your Soul Reapers, and that's all there is to it. But that's that for the damage. So let's take a look here at the Conduits and Soulbinds. So it's going to be the same as my Frost Guide, okay? I'm going to say Bonesmith Hermir off the bat. This is going to be for RBGs because you're going to be getting a lot of crit from hitting multiple people at once. Is going to be critting multiple times at once, which is going to give you this crit proc a lot quicker. As well as the come back to life effect when you die. So Bonesmith Hermir, RBGs in my opinion. So it's going to be between these two, okay? Plague Divisor and Amni. They're both good. You should just look at the things they have and see what you like more, okay? So Amni is going to be kind of good. It's good overall, I'd say, even if you're with melee, with casters, everything. It's going to Abomination Limb increases your strength by 5% and up to 4 nearby allies' primary stat by 2% for 20 seconds. You gain 2% additional strength for each ally affected. So if you're in 3s and you use this, you're going to be getting extra strength. You're going to be helping your teammates. It's going to be good overall. And then this is useless. So this row is good too, okay? You have movement speed, you have a fear that happens when you hit 20% health automatically without even doing anything, which is kind of OP in my opinion. So you can play that fear. You're going to be getting, this isn't that crazy, but after standing still for 5 seconds, you gain 20% movement speed for you and your allies for 10 seconds. So, I mean, if you're about to pop all your cooldowns, you stand still and then you rush them down, right? This is resilient stitching. This is a shield. So it's a magic shield again. So if you want to go full mage tank, you could spec into this. And then this postural eruption. It's not that crazy. It's just kind of your fleshcraft is going to heal allies when they're popped, and it's going to do damage too. But the one that's more so on my radar is Plague Advisor Merilith. Okay, this is what I've pretty much played religiously all of Shadowlands, and there's a reason for that. So this is your first ability is just going to make your fleshcraft consume corpses, just bigger fleshcraft. Pretty good, could be useful. Good if you kill somebody and you need to do a clutch 1v1 or something like that. Won some games from that once or twice before. The next thing, Ooze Frictionless Coating. See, this is what we like, okay? When reduced by below 50% health, Ooze covers you, granting you a shield for 15% of your maximum health over 10 seconds. So it's nerfed a little bit in PvP, but still a passive shield. We still like that. Still good. Ultimate Form, this is really good. While channeling Fleshcraft, you're immune to crowd control effects and regenerate health every 1 second. So, say you're gonna get polymorphed by a mage, boom, Fleshcraft. You're gonna get cloned, you Fleshcraft. You're gonna get cheap shotted, Fleshcraft, whatever. Any CC you want to tank, it's just overall really good. So the new abilities from it though are gonna be Vicious Trail, or Viscous Trail, I suppose. When struck by a snare, you drop a 70% slow for 10 seconds. And if they step in it, they're slowed for 5 seconds. And it can only occur once every minute, but still, it's a free 70% slow. So I'm sure you can catch some people out with that. The next thing we have here is Undulating Maneuvers. Not the most crazy ability, not really on my radar, but while above 80% health, 5% of damage taken is absorbed and spread out over 5 seconds. So that's whatever, that's nothing crazy. But the one that is good, I think, is going to be this one, okay? Say you're Unholy, you're popping all your pets, you're popping the zoo on them, and then you just pop an additional Oozling. So Kevin's Oozling, Abomination Limb, summons Kevin's Oozling to fight alongside you for 40 seconds. His attacks cause your enemies to take 6% additional damage from you, and he periodically grants your allies an absorption shield. Not the biggest shield, but it's still a free shield, right? What we're really going for here is that 6% additional damage. So 40 seconds he's going to be attacking and applying that, right? So that's a 6% on top of your... So let's add these together, okay? You got your 5% strength here. You got your 12% damage while you have Dark Transformation going. Plus you got your 6% from Kevin's Oozling. So if you're dropping Soul Reapers on your target in that time, the Soul Reapers are just going to be absolutely destroying them. But yeah, so as far as those go, that's what I recommend. I say you play one of these two. You read the talents you like and you can decide. For the conduits we're going to use here, the best conduit is going to be this one right here, Eternal Hunger. As far as potency goes, Eternal Hunger, then it's going to be Brutal Grasp. And for the third one, the third potency when we can use it, you can go ahead and just look at these and probably decide whichever one you want. You know, Convocation of the Dead is going to be good. Adaptive Armor Fragment could be good for the passive armor. Lingering Plague if you're in RBGs maybe and you want some more dots. But the third one isn't that important. The first two are kind of important. Brutal Grasp and Eternal Hunger, those are the bigger ones. So let's see. Finesse. Okay. I actually have some conduits to use really quick so I can show you guys. Give me 1 second here. Okay, so for the Finesse conduits, what you're going to do is you can either use Chilled Resilience. I'm actually going to throw Chilled Resilience in there for now. You can use, actually, you know what, Spirit Drain. So we didn't use Spirit Drain before because Deathstrike was kind of useless, so the runic power wasn't that crazy, but Deathstrike has been buffed now, so Deathstrike is good. So this conduit is actually pretty good. So as far as Finesse conduits that are worth playing, I'd say Spirit Drain, Chilled Resilience, and Fleeting Winds is more so for Frost, in my opinion, because it's easy to get your setups, but so I would go Spirit Drain or Chilled Resilience for Unholy. Endurance conduits. So this conduit, when it's really high level, might be good, but if you have it low, it doesn't seem like it does anything really. So as far as endurance conduits, I'd probably go with Insatiable Appetite 100% for your number one, since Deathstrike is buffed. The second conduit I'd go with is either Reinforced Shell or Hardened Bones, and then after that I'd go with the Anosphere. But yeah, so that's the Soulbinds and conduits right there. Alright guys, if you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And I'll catch you guys on my Twitch at twitch.tv/partywafflesx. See you guys next time. Good luck.